What's up, A to Z Sports Live on this Wednesday. Happy to have everybody along as the Titans got to honor a former player retiring as a Titan yesterday afternoon. That would be former Pro Bowl tight end Delanie Walker going out in his NFL career as a member of the Two-Tone Blue. So happy for Delaney and what the ceremony that he got yesterday at Nissan Stadium. So we'll talk through it. We'll play a couple videos from Delaney's press conference, retiring as a Titan, about his legacy and also what his favorite play was in Two-Tone Blue. So we're going to ask you guys, what was your favorite Delanie Walker moments as well? But we're going to go into how the Titans should honor Delanie Walker even more than allowing him his day to retire as a member of the franchise. And then once we talk Delaney and have a big Delaney day, we will discuss the email that Mike Vrabel that was sent over the weekend that was heard around the league. And we have Mike Vrabel's response to that. He wasn't too happy that he got out. But does the NFL have a big or small problem when it comes to Mike Vrabel's gripe, which will lead us nicely into throwing shade, because Vrabel threw shade at the NFL refs via email. We're going to throw shade here verbally on the show. So we do that every Wednesday to wrap up the show. Zach, welcome in. Let's get this thing on the road.
Yeah, about to get this party started on Wednesday. Got a shade day. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Be sure to share the show and subscribe. We will tweet out segment by segment our YouTube links on our Twitter at A to Z Sports. So follow us there. We got Kentucky, Tennessee tickets sprinkled out. Make sure you don't get got by some phony accounts. But, the Bone and Joint Institute hooking you guys up with opportunity to go to a really good college football game. So follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports and subscribe to our YouTube channel, A to Z Sports Nashville. We've got Titans content, live content, post locker room video. We've got Big Orange podcasts. We've got Preds podcasts, all sorts of good content if you are a Tennessee sports fan in some form or fashion. So subscribe. Just go to YouTube, search ATOZ Nashville, and boom, you'll find our YouTube page and you can subscribe there. Also, Facebook, what's going on Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen, sharing out of public. Sharing is caring and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. Share the show around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. How that works out is you guys distribute the show. More people are going to be piling in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So as you do, please share the show around on this shade day. Let's get this party started on Wednesday.
Yeah, let's get it going officially. I did see somebody says Kentucky, Tennessee trap game. Oh, man, maybe a conversation for another day. But let's get it going officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media, as we are Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Find links to the show on our Twitter timeline, also Instagram at A to Z Sports there. Hit us up on TikTok at A to Z Sports Nashville. But we got to thank our sponsors, because they make it happen for us and they make life better for you guys, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better coverage, rates, and service. Learn about a health plan for you. FBHP.com/ATOZ. And Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers, the official injury lawyers of the Titans. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call them for a free case consultation, 800-800-4600. So, Zach, yesterday was a big day for a former Titan great. Delanie Walker, three-time Pro Bowler, but one of the most underrated free agency signings in Titans history, goes out as a member of the Tennessee Titans. He has not played since the 2019 season, where the Titans did go to the AFC Championship game, but he spent the majority of that year on injured reserve after he had that gruesome ankle break in the first game of the 2018 season. But overall, great for Delaney. And we're talking a lot about Delanie Walker. Zach, I started covering the team in the locker room on a weekly basis in 2013, which was Delanie Walker's first year in Nashville. So him in his entire tenure in Nashville, absolutely one of my favorite guys to talk to in the locker room. always had a big smile, and then always had things to say. So, and didn't hold back with what he felt. But that's, we'll talk a lot about Delaney, but what was your initial reaction to seeing Delaney being able to have his moment and retire a Titan?
Well, I think on this show, we look for identities of teams. We look for leadership. We look for, who is going to take accountability. And I think that Delanie Walker, that is what he embodies. And I think during his time as a Tennessee Titan, he carried the torch for some bad teams, right? Him and Jarrell Casey and some of the others. But Delaney was at the forefront. He spoke, and this is what I always respect, because this is how I live my life, is say what you mean and mean what you say. And that's exactly, I feel like, what Delanie Walker did. He was a leader in the locker room, and he was a damn good football player. I look at Delanie Walker as one of those guys that was willing to do whatever it took in San Francisco. He was overshadowed by Vernon Davis. I mean, that's just the cold, hard facts. Then, if you look at what he was asked to do, he was an H-back, he was a tight end, he was, everything in between.
He returned kicks in San Francisco.
And then, but he was so much more talented if he was utilized maybe in a better facet or position. And when he went to Tennessee, he got the opportunity, and he truly did shine. And it kind of showed you what he could be as a football player. And here I think is the biggest part of when Delanie Walker was, the peak of his career, was when the tight end position as a whole was transforming. This was like, and I credit, like, Jimmy Graham was a big part of that transition. Greg Olsen was a big part of that transition.
Vernon Davis
was a big of tight ends. And Kellen Winslow Sr. back in the day for the Chargers, I mean, there was good tight ends, but there wasn't the plethora of tight ends in the league. And Delanie Walker, I put in that position because in a lot of cases, in numerous years, Delanie Walker was the best receiver on the team. And as a tight end, that was kind of unheard of for the majority of teams in the 90s and the 80s. They were asked to block. And so I look at Delanie Walker and the time and the era of football he played in. And when I think about, really damn good football players that play for the Tennessee Titans, Delanie Walker comes to mind. He did everything the right way. Him and Arthur Smith had a very close relationship. That's the other thing. Arthur Smith, cut his teeth a lot, was at a tight ends coach. Now he's a head coach in the NFL. And Delanie Walker was a big part of his success and his, maturity as a coach and rising through the ranks to get to where he is today. And as you saw yesterday in some of the videos released by the Tennessee Titans, he's a damn good teammate, well respected in the locker room, not only by the media, but by his team, his players, the people that, whether it was equipment managers or front office. I felt like 82 was a guy that you went to and he told you the truth and was exactly what you asked him to be. So that's a lot. But that's what I think of when I think of Delanie Walker.
Yeah, and he was asked about his legacy, and we'll play his answer here in a second. And it's always weird when somebody asks you about what you think your legacy is. But here's Delanie Walker on his legacy in Nashville.
My legacy? That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like my legacy here would probably be my grit. That would be it, because I never held back. I think I was too honest at sometimes with the media, and I know that's not good. But I think a lot of the stuff that I did off the field was just because how much I care for the city too, and I grew up in a single parent household, so I had the means to try to get back and show kids that they can be whoever they want to be. You don't have to feel like you're trapped in a box. So I try to do as much as I could to show that message. So that could be my legacy too. I got Man of the Year award twice, I think. Yeah, twice.
So, I let Delaney answer the question. Great. It's what he was to the media, what he was to the team on the field, and what he was to the fans in the city off the field. Because a two-time Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner for the Titans, a three-time Pro Bowler, and a guy that did so many different things off the field with charity, with foundations, with giving back to kids, single parent homes, like you mentioned. I remember right before he joined the Titans, it was when he was with the Niners and they lost the game to the Ravens in the Super Bowl, and his aunt and uncle were killed by a drunk driver. So he also had a drunk driving a foundation as well there too. So Delanie Walker did a lot of really great things and has a very strong legacy, and grit, I think, is a good word in every aspect of what he was for this franchise.
Well, and that answer was very authentic. He caught that question, caught him by surprise. I mean, I guess, he hadn't been a part of one of those retirement press conferences before, but those are I've been a part of quite a bit of them when players retire, and those are the type of questions that you're asked. But it can catch you off guard because, as you said and you preface, is to think about and talk about yourself is not like Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker was about the team, about winning football games. That's what he embodied, and that was his mindset. And so when you're forced to talk about yourself and your legacy and what your career meant to yourself and those around you, I think that kind of put him in a tough situation. But I do think grit does come to mind. Being real, that's what 82 brought to the field. And he was hard-nosed. He's tough to tackle. In open field, he was fast, he was strong, he could block, he could go up the seam, he could go down the sidelines, he could make people miss. Like, there were so many different features that Delanie Walker brought to the football field as a tight end that are really hard to find. You see a lot of one-trick ponies. That's not what Delanie Walker was for the Tennessee Titans.
Absolutely. So there's one way that I think the Titans should honor Delanie Walker as well, and it's something they haven't done with a player in quite some time. But first, let me tell you guys about Hughes and Coleman, the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation at 800-800-4600. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients across the entire state of Tennessee and the state of Kentucky, over 30 years of service for their clients. And they have the muscle, they have the resources to fight the insurance companies for you to get what you deserve. So if you've been injured in a car wreck, call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation. Again, the number 800-800-4600, principal office in Nashville, Tennessee.
A to Z Sports, we're powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. The king of sports books, right there on your screen. You see BetMGM, a risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new users. Use the promo code ATOZSPORTS, all one word, no spaces. Put in the promo code tab, and for a new user, you get a risk-free bet up to $1,000.
All right, so I do think it is time for Delanie Walker and other Titans, not him alone, to go into the Titans Ring of Honor. I think it's interesting that if you look at the Titans Ring of Honor, and I'm curious to see what the Titans will do with the new stadium and the Ring of Honor, but there's not a lot of players who spent their entire career. Actually, there are 0 players who spent their entire playing career as Titans, because the only players who have spent their career in a Titans uniform that are in the Ring of Honor, Eddie George, Bruce Matthews, Steve McNair, and Frank Wycheck. Everybody else is a Oiler-only player, or Jeff Fisher's in it, Floyd Reese is in it as coach and GMs. KS Bud Adams is in it, obviously. Mike Munchak, who player and coach for the organization for a long time. But they have not added a Titans-only player into the Ring of Honor ever. And that kind of caught me by surprise. And so I think Delanie Walker has a career that's worth honoring with that Ring of Honor.
Well, I think the tough part is that the era between McNair and where we are, there's some bad football teams, right?
I don't disagree.
And so, the Ring of Honor, when I think of Ring of Honor, I laugh because we're talking about Ring of Honor and putting Delanie Walker in. Jerry Jones has yet to put Jimmy Johnson in the Cowboy Ring of Honor.
Yeah, so, but we know.
But I do think that's funny, right?
That's that's personal.
Hey, it is what it is. He's still not in.
Yeah.
I think for the Ring of Honor and what it stands for, I think Titans fans that have been true Titans fans for a very long time, they know, when I think of Steve McNair, I think of Eddie George, and I think of Eddie George, I think of Frank Wycheck. Those are kind of the three of that era. You obviously have Keith Bullock of that era that, impacted quite a bit, and Mr. Monday Night, which is one of the best nicknames that I feel like is not talked about enough. But Mr. Monday Night, and the Titans have had some good quality players. I've seen the comments. You bring up Michael Griffin, you bring up Jarrell Casey, who was a consistent Pro Bowler at defensive tackle, and they moved off of Jarrell Casey and replaced him with Jeffrey Simmons. That's a pretty good replacement right there. But
Chris Johnson. I mean, there's some really good players.
Chris Johnson has the 2,000-yard season,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: Delanie Walker, he played longer in San Francisco than he did in Tennessee. Now he had a lot better career as the Titan or as a Titan.
Right.
You have Javon Curse. You've got a lot of big time names, but I do think that, and Austin, I think that you and I, we both feel this because this was, we're covering the football team while they were really, really bad. You need, God knows what the franchises would have been without Delanie Walker. I kind of think about that. They could have fallen into the Jacksonville Jaguars to a degree if you don't have the leadership of, a guy like Delanie Walker. So I think that the Ring of Honor makes the most sense as kind of the next step. You got to kind of give it some time after he retires. So I don't know when that is going to be.
Yeah.
But if I had a list of next guys up, I put Delanie Walker at the top over Chris Johnson, over Michael Griffin. Keith Bullock probably maybe up there.
Yeah.
But the impact of what Delanie Walker did cannot go unnoticed.
Yeah, and so I see some comments, people saying Michael Roos and David Stewart. David Stewart, no. Michael Roos, maybe.
Big Country.
Yeah, I don't think Big Country is going to get in there. But again, I think it's interesting to me that there has not been a single Titans only player in the Ring of Honor, and they didn't really touch the Ring of Honor for a while until last year. They put in the trio of Bum Phillips, Jeff Fisher, and of Floyd Reese. And so they took this year off. So there was not a class of 2022 Ring of Honor like there was the trio in 2021. So are they getting something ready? Were they waiting on a stadium situation? Was that kind of why they were doing that this year? But there are several guys that deserve it. Delanie Walker absolutely deserves to be in that Ring of Honor, and other guys in his era. I think it's really just Ring of Honor level. It's Delaney and Jarrell Casey, maybe Brett Kern, but you've already got one punter in the Ring of Honor. You might as well have two. So maybe Brett Kern, but those other two guys of Delanie Walker, Jarrell Casey from that era, that's who needs to be in the Ring of Honor at some point. I definitely do think that he just officially retired. Jarrell just officially retired last year, and he had his same press conference. So you got to let those retirements breathe a little bit before you bring them back for another honor. So I do think that those two guys are worthy of the Ring of Honor. Brett Kern's still, he's not retired yet. He's just hanging out, waiting for the Titans if Ryan Stonehouse doesn't work out, which I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
but
he's working out.
But then you have guys who have been passed up, like Keith Bullock, like Chris Johnson, Michael Griffin. Maybe, but I think the other two, Bullock and CJ, are guys that definitely need to be in there.
Well, and now looking at Chris Johnson and his Titans career, now there's a huge drop off after he left Tennessee. He played for, the Jets and the Cardinals. But for his 6 years that he was a Tennessee Titan between 2008 and 2013, all 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
He had 3 of those over 1,200. Well, 4 of them over 1,200, and then 1 2,000-yard rushing season. You can't, and drafted, homegrown, right? So drafted by the Tennessee Titans. That's hard to draft. Chris Johnson deserves to be there. So taking another look at CJ
Yeah.
2K, you have to put Chris Johnson in there. You have to put Delanie Walker in there. And I think Jarrell Casey has to go in there. But you're right. We're too soon.
Yeah.
There's got to be some time, that lapses for the next several years before we're having a conversation. But I do think that that honor needs to happen.
Yeah, it absolutely should. And people are saying Javon Curse, the freak. I don't know if Javon Curse is a Ring of Honor guy, just because his initial first part of his career with the Titans was great. Then he went to Philadelphia, went away for several years. Then he came back and was more of a role player. So that's kind of a different type of thing where you've got, Delaney, Jarrell, who signed second deals with the teams. Chris Johnson signed second deal with the team. You have Keith Bullock signing and playing for the team for nearly a decade. Those type of guys, you have to get second contracts, I feel like, to be a Ring of Honor guy. Javon Curse came in, was great on his rookie deal, then got paid by Philly. Then he came back later in his life, where I don't necessarily think that fits. But I do think that all those guys I just mentioned should be in the Ring of Honor at some point. CJ and Bullock need to go in probably in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. Because it has to go by timeline.
Yes.
Delanie Walker and Jarrell Casey are on down the road. Keith Bullock, who, I think overall Keith Bullock, and this is what happens when you play for the Tennessee Titans, right? When you're drafted and you're not a Hall of Fame type player, which is hard to be, especially in the NFL. I always tell people that when we talk football and you talk Hall of Fame, go to the Hall of Fame website and actually see the number of football players inducted into the Hall of Fame. They're not that many.
No.
It's very, very difficult. That's the reason why Steve McNair is not in the Hall of Fame. It's very difficult to get in.
Same with Eddie.
The perception of Steve McNair is this unbelievable great player, and he was, but he's not Hall of Fame worthy. He's just not. And he's never going to be, regardless on if he's alive or passed away. But Keith Bullock doesn't really get the credit I think he deserves nationally as the linebacker that he was and the impact that he made on a lot of really good football teams. That's the problem with Delanie Walker. He didn't play for a lot of really good football teams. He played for more really bad football teams for the Titans.
But it's also like, it's the Grizzlies retiring Zach Randolph's jersey. It's not the fact that Zach Randolph is a Hall of Fame level NBA player. It's the impact that he made on the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, I think anybody that says Delanie Walker's 82 should be retired, that's too much. That's going too far ahead, because the Titans have only retired 6 numbers. They're either Hall of Fame players like in the NFL or Steve McNair and Eddie George. And so Delanie's just not there, but he should be in the Ring of Honor. Now, I did find this interesting, Zach, because we've mentioned all these players. We've mentioned Bullock, Chris Johnson, Jarrell Casey, Delanie Walker, and then you've got the other guys like McNair, Eddie, and Frank. There's 2 guys that are not like the others that I just listed. The 2 tight ends were not draft picks. And so you've got Bullock, CJ, Jarrell, draft picks, Eddie, McNair, draft picks. Frank played a couple years in Washington, and then Delaney came over as a free agent. I think that's a big deal of being a free agent and not being a drafted homegrown player, coming in and then earning your way to Ring of Honor status.
Yeah, I think it's hard to do. And, he spent, 7 years?
7 years. 7 years in San Francisco.
Which is wild. And he played a lot of games in those 7 years. I mean, he obviously was more of a utility player because of what they were asking him to do. But 7 years and playing more years in San Francisco. But, the impact and the role that he played as a Titan. Look, Marcus Mariota, that was his only option. I mean, I feel like there were times where, and we'll talk about moments here in a second, Mariota's handing the ball off to Antonio Andrews, and he has nobody to pass to. I mean, these are rough, lean years. Last year the Lions and the Jags were the worst teams in the NFL, At that point in time, it was the Bucks and the Titans. Those were the two worst teams in the league for a handful of years. Now that script has been flipped, obviously, because of Tom Brady for Tampa Bay and Mike Vrabel and John Robinson for the Titans, because they've changed the culture, and obviously Amy Adams Strunk, to give her the credit that she deserves. They were just in a state of disarray because this all comes back to one thing, Austin, and Titans fans know this because they lived it. It was the death of Bud Adams. That changed a lot of things in the trajectory of Tennessee, Nashville, and the Titans franchise as a whole. And if anybody has lived any part of life, the older you get, people die. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live forever.
Yeah.
But you also start to learn when it starts to impact your singular life. If your parents or grandparents have passed away, the trusts or the wills and the organization or lack thereof. And when you're talking about a conglomerate that is a multi-billion-dollar business, things get sticky. Brothers and sisters argued to no end. They stopped talking to each other over a couple $1,000s. Imagine if it's a couple $1 billion. And so there was that flux because Bud Adams, I don't know whether he wasn't prepared or he was just late in his age and he didn't have that conversation. And not many people do. My grandparents on my dad's side, their last will was 1976. They had always said, you guys are going to figure it out when we're dead. That's what they said. And so Bud Adams, he had a different responsibility because of the money and what the Titans represented to a city and all the other things and assets that he had. But Tommy Smith being president for a couple of years, those years were really, really bad. Yeah. And until Amy Adams Strunk became controlling owner, things were looking grim. They really were.
Yeah, and Zach Goodman points out everyone that reached out during the retirement video that the Titans posted, they all talked about the changing the culture and the environment in the locker room. And I think that leads us into where we want to go and ask you guys, what was your what was your most memorable Delanie Walker moment? What was your most memorable Delanie Walker moment? I've got mine, and I'll be honest, it's a locker room moment. So what's your most memorable Delanie Walker moment? Can be a play, could be anything, but want to do that and get your guys' opinions and responses in here. But Zach, tell us all about Wilson County Hyundai.
Wilson County Hyundai is where Delanie Walker, big fan of cars there.
He's a Hyundai guy too, because he won one
That's
for being
right.
the Pro Bowl MVP.
He did. So it goes right into that.
Yes.
Big car guy, big Hyundai guy. Pro Bowl Central. I don't know if Delaney may have driven that Pro Bowl Hyundai to his retirement press conference. Who knows? But he could have been in a Palisade, could have traded it in for a brand new Sonata or Elantra. He could have plugged that bad boy up like the Ioniq, which is battery powered. Wilson County Hyundai is family owned and operated. If Delaney loves it, we all love it. So if you're in a market for a new vehicle, go to wilsoncountyhyundai.com, look at their inventory, and test drive a Hyundai today.
Also, download the BetMGM app, and when you do, use our code ATOZ Sports. That'll unlock a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000. So all you do, you download the app, plug in the code ATOZ Sports, you make your first deposit, and bang, your first bet on pro football risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only new customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued with knowledgeable free bets or site credit. For bets expire 7 days. For problem game and support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Zach, we're asking everybody what was their favorite, most memorable Delanie Walker moment. I will let you go to the chat. We'll tell ours, and then we'll play Delaney's answer to this question on his favorite play. But most memorable moment, what's the people saying?
And I have to start with, and this is mine. I cannot run away from it.
Okay.
But Xavier had it. I saw it earlier in the comments. It is the New England play. And I had to go back to specifically see when that was. And this was a bad time for the Titans. They were 3-11. It was late in the year. It was week 15 in New England. They lost this game 33-16.
Yeah.
Guess what? Mariota got hurt.
No, do you remember? I remember exactly why he got hurt, because Antonio Andrews missed on a pass protection and Mariota had a sprained knee.
Yes, and that he didn't return because it was late in the season and they were 3-10 at the time. It ended up being 3-11. And Delanie Walker caught the pass for 57 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 receptions for 64. But that embodied, and Xavier, you're getting the love of the show because I can't run away from this. We spent a lot of time in the locker room with Delanie Walker, talked to him a bunch, saw every play that he played as a Titan. But this play cannot escape my memory. When I think about it, I think about him going across the field down the right sideline and booming right into the end zone. It was maybe a meaningless touchdown, but it was meaningful in how I perceive and look at Delanie Walker's career. It is. Major says him calling out the coaches after a terrible loss.
Which time?
Right. Long catch versus the Saints off the tip. Yep. That was the Anthony Fasano throwback overtime game, if you remember.
Yeah, that was after Wisenhunt got fired and Malarkey got the interim job.
That's absolutely right. So catch against the Saints. So that's definitely a memory. Triple covered against the Colts. Crown them, honorable mention right there. Catch in traffic versus 3 defenders. Perfect, though, by Mariota. I still don't know how he caught it. So those are some good moments. John says easily after week 1, 2018 against the Browns, they still got to play football, quote. So there's a good memory there from Delaney. And going through Stephen King saying they were who we thought they were from that Cleveland moment. An interview with Bussin. He did Bussin with the boys for that moment. No look pass from Mariota against maybe the Chargers.
Yeah, that was the Chargers. It was in San Diego. The Titans lost that game because Mariota had a bad couple of turnovers towards the end.
Yeah. Beast mode coming in there. So a lot of different comments. Memorable moment. Oh, here's from MB. Most memorable moment, Delaney signed his son's football at the Pro Bowl. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Another triple coverage catch against the Colts. BMO's going with that Patriots touchdown. Eric is being honest with, hurting his ankle. That was a interesting game and obviously a career changer. And that was devastating to the team because that could have been a big year for Delanie Walker that we'll never unfortunately realize.
Yeah.
What was your number one most memorable moment of Delanie Walker's career?
Well, my most memorable moment was in the locker room. I'll get to that in a second. My most memorable play, like if there's an image in my head of Delaney in a game where the Titans dominated an opponent you didn't expect. The Titans whooped the Packers in Nissan Stadium in 2016. And I have an image ingrained in my brain of Delanie Walker stiff-arming and upending Clinton Dix, Packers safety at the time, and just shoving him in the ground. Like, he stiff-armed him and made him go. It was kind of Josh Norman, Derrick Henry-esque type stiff arm, but that was a memorable moment in a game where the Titans asserted their dominance in that moment to lead them to where we thought that 2016 season would be very special, but then Mariota broke his ankle late in the year. So that was my most memorable on-field moment for Delaney. I think an honorable mention is week 2, maybe the next year, when Mariota threw like a rope down the seam in Detroit to Delaney. That might have been Mariota's best throw ever.
That was his best throw of his
entire career. I don't care what he's done with the Raiders or the Falcons. That throw was insane. But Delaney caught that one for a touchdown. My most memorable moment in the locker room was when he said, sometimes you have to overcome coaching, because of what that reverberated through the entire franchise. And, Delaney never held back his words. He had a lot of controversial things that he said where some Titans fans might not be over it. And especially recently when he talked about the reason why he doesn't get enough recognition around the league is because he played in Nashville. That's not a knock on the Titans or a knock on the city. It's a knock on the NFL's lack of coverage.
Well, no, that's wrong. I disagree with that. That is a knock. You can't deny that absolutely is a knock on the city. It is a knock on the fan base. It is a knock on what the sports fans of the Tennessee Titans represent. So do not pull any punches. Don't be Delaney wouldn't want you to. It is a knock. It is a knock on it.
But again, it's not him disrespecting the people that gave him a career.
No, he's calling a spade a spade. No, in my opinion.
I guess that's okay. Never mind. I'll move on from that. But I did see Eric Alonso. Eric Alonso did say this: seeing Delanie Walker at Bar Louie in a Rolls Royce. I don't know if you ever ran into Delaney out on the town, but I sure did. And he didn't. That's the funny thing is that Delaney was everywhere, but he didn't drink, but he was out there having fun. And he talked about that, and he was just smiling. And I don't know what bar we were in on Broadway, but all of a sudden Delaney was right there, and he saw me and gave me that like Roger Goodell, like you got drafted type of hug in whatever bar it was on Broadway. And I was like, hey, what's up, Delaney? And he was great. And he was awesome to deal with. And so that was honestly the two things that stand out the most is seeing Delaney out on Broadway, and then also the locker room moments where we talked to him about a lot of different things for Delanie Walker.
I've ran into Delanie Walker twice that I can remember. One was at Whole Foods, which is just random. The other one was at the top of the Valentine, and that turned into me taking shots with Bleedy Ray Wilson. He should have been studying coverage, but I was taking shots with him at one point.
Yeah. Eric Castillo says, oh, Delaney did drink. Well, he got to a point in his career where he did not, especially in the season. And he talked about that a lot, why he was still blowing by defenders at age 31, 32. But yeah, so those are my most memorable Delanie Walker moments overall.
Yeah, great player. I mean, and you don't throw the word great around. He was a great tight end for this Titans team. Now, maybe in the scheme of like greatness and Hall of Fame, he's not to that level, but the impact, I think I go back to that. The impact that he made on the franchise is remembered, and it's just like, you know, his teammates. We talked about Jarrell Casey. Jarrell Casey made a huge impact, and he did not get the recognition that he deserved because he played for the Tennessee Titans. I will be curious, Austin, and things have changed because you have Mike Vrabel, who's a known commodity. John Robinson has gotten a little bit more recognition, and they're about to build a brand new stadium. What will Jeffrey Simmons' impact of playing in Tennessee? Now, he hasn't signed his new deal yet, but if he does, and it's a long-term thing, which I expect, like the impact of playing for the Tennessee Titans do not have a cerebral, game-changing elite quarterback. They have not had that since Steve McNair. And until you get that, I truly believe in a small market, you're not going to get recognized and noticed. But when you got Patrick Mahomes, all of a sudden Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones, all those, you can start naming them because you're in the spotlight more. And so what will Jeffrey Simmons become if he doesn't have that game-changing type quarterback on his team?
Yeah. And then, you know, you said the word great for Delanie Walker. People are pushing back on that. Nick says, in my opinion, Delaney was great. One of the best tight ends in the NFL for a handful of years. I mean, yeah, it's not easy to make the Pro Bowl as a tight end in the AFC. Like, think about like Delanie Walker, 3 straight Pro Bowls in the AFC during the era of Travis Kelce in the AFC, Rob Gronkowski in the AFC, and I'm forgetting, like, there's only 2 spots for tight ends, and like those.
And Gronk got it every year when he wasn't hurt. Even when he was hurt. Well, and he got it. Here's the one thing: he's playing a lot of Super Bowls, so there's that.
But again, like Delaney was right there. Delaney was getting Pro Bowl recognition in the AFC when you had those 2 other guys right there with him. So,
and Nick brings this up on a rushing football team to boot. The Titans have always been run first. They are a run-heavy franchise. They always have been.
Yeah, and several people bring up, did he overlap with Antonio Gates and with the Chargers? I don't know if Delaney's Pro Bowls did or not, because Delaney was a Pro Bowler 2015 16, and 17. And Antonio Gates might have been a little too old at that point.
I don't know. Antonio Gates played a long, long time. Guy, Antonio Gates, dude, that guy I always drafted him on my fantasy team. How many years did Antonio Gates play football? There's a trivia question. And I'm asking you.
Oh. 11?
16.
Golly.
So yes, they did overlap. That was what year did Delaney make Pro Bowl?
15, 16, 17.
So 14, Antonio Gates caught 12 touchdowns, which is wild. 15, 16, and 17, he was kind of starting. Those are his lesser years, but he was still, 630 yards receiving, 548 yards receiving.
But he wasn't like top. And then people were bringing up Antonio Gonzalez as well.
Tony G.
What was Tony? He was done by 2015 for sure, right?
Tony Gonzalez, man, this is great. I love going down memory lane like this. He was done by 2013.
Yeah. So there wasn't. So
you got to remember he was drafted in 1997.
Yes, Tony Gonzalez a little bit older there too. So yeah, he was definitely done.
I'm trying to think of other really good AFC tight ends in that era, though.
Gronk, Hernandez was
in there.
But by 15, I think he was done. Because I know
not done, but done.
I mean, he was done.
Done.
No, Zach, he was done in 2017, like permanently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He wasn't done.
And people are saying Jimmy Graham, he played in the NFC. Kellen Winslow Jr.
Dallas Clark, but that's
a lot older.
That was like 06.
Yeah. But the main two were Gronk, Kelsey, and then Delaney right there in that for a couple of those years.
There you go. Wait, do we play his favorite play?
We have not. That's what I was getting to.
I haven't seen this, so
I haven't either.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Delaney. We've said all of ours.
Yeah.
Let's go straight to the source.
All right, here's Delaney on his favorite play.
What's the play you remember?
The play I remember, it was going to have to probably be against the Patriots. I just remember coming in that week and, they wasn't talking about us at all, just Gronk. And this is just me. I ain't tell the team. I was like, I'm going to outplay Gronk today. And that's all I talked about. And I remember we were down and they came to me like, we need to play. And then Zach Mittenberger was the quarterback at the time. He threw me like a 5-yard pass, and I think at that point I was just angry. I was running out of anger, and I ran over like 2 people, ran down the sideline, jumped over somebody, stiff-armed somebody, and then ran for a touchdown. And I always remember that. That's one play I will never forget. I felt like that was probably one of my better plays in the NFL. So
that was yours.
Yeah,
that was probably the most popular answer from the chat too.
Well, and very memorable. One tight end that I was just looking up, Heath Miller from the Steelers, was also very good.
Different style though. Heath Miller was more of your throwback style tight end, not the field stretcher that Gronk, Kelsey, and Delaney.
But Roethlisberger went to him a lot. Because I had him on my fantasy teams too. So yeah. I mean, that's how, again, that's why fantasy football, that's why soccer is never going to sniff the jock of the NFL for the next 45 years, is because fantasy football, that's how we remember all of these players, because you're watching a Lions game because all of a sudden, you've got, Calvin Johnson on your football team. There's no reason to be watching the Lions game. They're 3-11,
Yeah.
So
Titans Rossi asked, who was a tight end that played for the Ravens? Todd Hip. I think he dislocated both of his hips or something like that as well. So, yeah.
Always good going down memory lane right there.
Yes, for sure. A to Z Sports live on this Wednesday show. Mike Vrabel calls out the NFL for one of its more embarrassing issues. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know where to go to get back to your health. They have over a dozen doctors there at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin that specialize in any type of injury you could possibly have, whether it's in sports, in life, to a kid. They've got a physical therapy rehab facility there that's state-of-the-art as well. It's in Franklin, but they also have clinics across Williamson County and growing, Brentwood, Thompson Station, and Nolensville as well. boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports were powered by BetMGM. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports. They're the king of sports books. Use that promo code. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on pro football. Got a lot of pro football on the horizon. Thursday night, you got Saints Cards. I don't know what that's going to be, but I think the Cards are wearing their all-black uniforms. Hey, it's football. Football's football. You can win money on football, and you can win money with BetMGM. Download the app today.
All right, so Mike Vrabel sent an email. He did the old reply all to all NFL head coaches and general managers who get an email each week about officiating. They do videos. And so here is the email that Mike Vrabel sent. Quote, I appreciate the time and energy that goes into these videos, but I suggest we devote every minute of our officiating department's time ensuring our officiating crews are as well trained in the clarifications we worked to create in the offseason, and that each crew is as consistent as possible. Thank you. So that's Mike Vrabel's email to the league. Here is Mike Vrabel answering a question about the email on this Monday morning a couple days ago.
Much was made of your response, I guess, to the officiating committee. Was that report accurate? And if so, I guess why reply all to the message that you got there?
Well, first I would say that, obviously I wasn't contacted by anybody that put the report out. That'd be the first thing I'd say. The second thing is I just, it only goes to head coaches and general managers, so apparently there's people there that want to put things out to people for a purpose. I don't know. I never understood that. The reply all, I mean, you guys know me. I'm not hiding behind anything. I mean, we all get together, we meet, we sit in a ballroom. Apparently you got email now, it's reply all. It's like me standing up, or any other coach or any general manager or anybody that wanted to say something in a meeting. I felt the need to say it and address it. It's important. Coaching, and playing, and officiating all make up our game. Players more so than anybody. And, we spent a lot of time on this in the off season. And the only other job that's harder than playing is officiating. So just trying to make my point or say my piece.
So, Zach, I know that the reply all makes you smile and it makes me smile because we like people who appropriately reply all to emails. And yes, Mike Vrabel replying all to that email is exactly what he needed to do.
God bless. I love that. I love that right there. And Mike Vrabel, I've always liked Mike Vrabel in a lot of the things that he stands for and that he does, because he's very principled. He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care about your opinion. He's there to do a job. Now, sometimes he can get moody, just like everybody, but I do love that because, that's what he's trying to do. Now, he's upset that somebody leaked it, which I understand. But at the same time, if you reply all, you have to know that there's probably going to get leaked. There's too many people. Welcome to, high school drama, right? I mean, if something is said, something's going to get leaked, and Schefter's going to find out about it.
62 other people on that email besides Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, and the person who sent it.
Too many people know, right? But I don't think Mike Vrabel cares. And the fact is that the NFL this year does have an officiating problem. And Austin, I'll tell you the reason why. And Mike Vrabel told us the reason why. They're not consistent in their calls.
No.
And the Tom Brady sling down, okay? And Patrick Mahomes was slung down by a Buffalo Bill on Sunday. Same thing, didn't get called. And so, like, there is a discrepancy. And if you're going to call and justify a call because of a rule, you have to at least be consistent. And I love Mike Vrabel's approach, Austin, is because if you every waking hour, you should be working on your craft. You don't need to be sending me emails because it took you time out of your day to send me this email when you should have been studying harder for the test on Thursday, Sunday night, and Monday night. And so I love that philosophy, and I stand on this topic with Mike Vrabel and his actions.
Yeah. And somebody's like, I don't understand. Xavier says, I don't get how Jerome Boger is still officiating in the NFL. Well, the problem is that there's a lack of officiating around the country at all levels. Like, Zach, I don't know if you knew this or not, because we don't pay much attention to high school football anymore. Did you know that in the state of Tennessee in high school football, every school has to play at least one Thursday night game this season? The reason being that they don't have enough referees to cover Friday nights if they don't have that. Like, there is a serious problem with lack of officials at high school, in college, and then why Jerome Boger is still allowed to be a ref is because they don't have anybody else to take his spot. Like, that's the problem. And somebody else said that referees should be held accountable for their bad calls. And I'm trying to scroll back up to find that because I agree, and I think everybody agrees on that. But the problem is referees are graded. We don't get their grades publicly. There's no Pro Football Focus of referees that grades refs an hour.
They should. That's a good idea for Pro Football Focus. I think you just came up with a brand new division of PFF.
At least I don't think there is. There might be, but I don't know if there is.
You don't subscribe to that section.
Yeah, I will subscribe to the referee one. Not Pro Football Focus, but the refs one, I'll be there. But again, and Jimbo says that there's a huge umpire shortage in Ohio. It's trickling up. You don't just start as a college referee or an NFL referee. You have to climb all the way up, and it takes time to do that. But they are held accountable. They get graded. But what happens is when they get bad grades, they still call games the next week. They just get lowered to a lesser game in the eyes of the NFL, which is punishing their own teams.
Well, so why is there a shortage?
Oh, I mean, that's a whole show, man.
Well, no, I think it's very simple. I think when you look, because I look at referees and you're saying it's a work shortage.
Why would anybody want to be a referee?
Well, so how do you get somebody to do anything in America?
Pay.
Bingo. You got it. So they're not paid enough. And I remember when officials were not even full-time in the NFL. This was like a handful of years ago, because I remember when they switched that over, they weren't getting paid very well. But that's what you have to do. So the association, and honestly, I have their business solution for high school football, is they need, and this is free business solution, all right? The TSSAA, if you're listening out there, here's how you do it. Now, you have to actually spend money to make money, but you need to provide a streaming service to watch all of these games and create advertising and money to actually be profitable, to then ingrain the division or the association with money and influx of cash and revenue to pay these referees. But that has to be regulated. That has to be commissioned by a commissioner. You have to have all of those things, and they don't have the structure, but that's how you fix it.
But the reason why they don't have streaming services for all, now you have to pay people, a camera crew, to do all this.
That's why I prefaced my statement. You have to spend money to make money.
But where is that money? So the reason why that doesn't happen, because I went to Brentwood High School. We, as a TV production group, have a seven camera shoot for high school football games there. They can't be aired live because what that does is affect the high school's gate. And gate money is important, right? Because now if people can watch every high school game they want to on stream online, how less likely
You have
are
to
they
pay for it.
they have to pay for the stream?
Yes. OnlyFans, bro.
And so
if
Orlando
IG
says,
models are making $60K a month, God knows what the TSSAA can make streaming
Orlando
games.
says let the AV kids do it. Not every school has that TV production type program that's not every high school is created equal. Not every county is the same. You can't do a TSSAA rule across all 5A to 1A to D2 1A and D2 2A. Like there's just too much stuff going through all that. And it's just so complicated. It's why, like, if college football can't get it right with a Power 5 group, then what do you think a high school level can do when they've got...
Well, Austin, no, college football has gotten it right financially. They've gotten it wrong other places.
Because
we're talking about getting it right financially.
yes, because it's easier for the NFL to do it financially because there's 32 teams. It's easy. It's harder than the NFL for college football when there's 130. But then they've cut it down to 64 plus Notre Dame and BYU and a couple other independents for Power 5 to have 65. Then how much more difficult is it when you have a state that's got 7 divisions of football and districts and regions within those divisions? Because let's think about it. 5A football in high school, there are 32 teams that make the playoffs. How many teams don't make them? So now you've got hundreds and hundreds of high schools that have different counties, that have different budgets, that have different everything. And we're trying to fix the referee situation.
Yes, well, because we're trying to find the check. Like all we're trying to do, the whole reason why I brought this up is if your problem is referees, you can find referees to work Friday nights if you pay them enough, if you say that it is worth their time. Now, if you cannot, in this day and age, and this is the sad, cold, hard truth, is people don't want to work. And so with that being said, if people don't want to work, the only way that you make them want to work is for a paycheck. There's just more ways to make money. Austin, before the internet, this business of what we're doing is obsolete.
Yeah.
We're working somewhere else, right? So there's different ways, but the state, I'm just concentrating on it state by state because that's how it's regulated.
Yeah.
A state has to fix its problem. Texas and Ohio and Tennessee and California and North Dakota, those are all different problems, but you've got to fix them individually if you do have a referee problem.
Yeah, sure. And so again, it's a trickle up. High school has ref problems, which means, look, Pop Warner probably has ref problems because, again, the main question, and yes, pay helps, but why would anybody want to be a referee in today's age? Because technology is better than the referee's eyes when there is the replay angles of games. You always get scrutinized. Parents at Little League games are as bad and worse than they've ever been. All you do is get yelled at and hated on for the duration of your game for what, $50 a game?
But Austin, you know this. They love football. Like they love sport. Like that's there's a passion of it. And so many people are. No. There are millions upon millions upon millions of people that are passionate about sport. And that is an ability to be involved.
I'll say this. People who love the game would way rather be a volunteer assistant at their high school than referee a high school game.
Depending on how much you get paid.
But
right? Yes. 0 compared to a good amount of money or a adequate amount of money to spend your Friday nights refereeing. It's a simple problem. It is money. It's all that it is. You can convince anybody to do anything for the right amount of money. Anybody, anything. There's been some crazy stuff that have happened in this world because of money.
If it was that easy, then it wouldn't be an issue. It isn't.
The issue is what we just talked about, is that the actual association that pays these refs is bunk. They don't have the revenue to actually offer a sustainable, adequate amount for the job of a referee.
Yeah.
That's it. It's simple but complicated, but it's very simple at the root.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's that simple, but look, it's tough and it's a problem. The NFL has a problem. Jerome Boger's terrible, but that's all they have. And
and we'll just be simple with this.
Yeah.
Does the NFL have a big issue? Is Mike Vrabel's reply all? Is that telling us that this is a massive issue in the NFL, or is this just an issue? It's just another year with another complaint.
So I would say officiating as a whole is an issue. It's not like the massive. It's embarrassing.
But that will never change, correct?
No. Yeah, I don't think it doesn't matter how good it's going to be that we all sitting at home on our giant TVs with, I don't know what definition they use now, are able to see mistakes every time in live time that the referee can't with their eyes and their positioning on the field. So they're always going to be an issue. I think if you simplify this and you say roughing the passer, yes, big issue. Roughing the passer itself is a big issue. Officiating as a whole is an issue, not big, like just specifically roughing the passer.
So, but roughing the passer is just the flavor of the week.
Right. But that is easier to fix roughing the passer by itself than it is the other stuff there.
I disagree.
I think roughing the passer should be kind of like targeting in college football where you should be able to review it. Roughing the passer, I think that because of what's happening.
So that call is always reviewable. They tried that, though. They tried that with pass interference. And then all of a sudden they went back on it a year later.
But roughing the passer, I think, is easier to describe than pass interference.
The caveat to that is safety, though. You can't, what is a greater, and this is just, and I think this is the simplest, easiest way to ask this. For the NFL, what is a worse public relations? Tua Tagovailoa going that on national television, or Tom Brady getting the benefit of the doubt on a bad call? What is worse PR?
Probably the Tua stuff.
Exactly. That's the correct answer. You passed the test. So it will always be the Tua. It will always be a human being not being a human being for a moment. So you cannot review in that sense because the NFL has got to always fall back on safety.
That's the point. Yeah, but that's the point that like you can review targeting. That's a player safety thing, but targeting comes with an ejection. Roughing the passer never should. Targeting, though, is reviewable because in the moment something looks like oh my gosh, that guy, like the Bryce Young, Amari Thomas thing from Saturday night that we all saw. Amari Thomas was aiming for Bryce Young's shoulder, but he's got a big freaking head, and so the side of his helmet clipped the face mask of Bryce Young, but delivered the shoulder. I thought that was the correct call because the intent of Amari Thomas was to hit at the shoulder pad, which is where he is coached to hit at the shoulder pad. So for Grady Jarrett or for Chris Jones, those two roughing the passers were absolute BS. So be able to review that to overturn.
But Austin, by rule, they were not.
I understand.
But that's what they're saying. That's what the NFL came back on.
That's what I'm saying. They need to, and this is not until.
But then they have to change the rule because by rule they cannot overturn it.
I understand, Zach. I'm not arguing that they should have reviewed it in the game. I know the rules. I know that's not a reviewable play. But the way to fix that after the season is to make roughing the passers a reviewable penalty because of what it goes into with player safety and the potential for initially thinking a hit was bigger than it actually was type of moment like targeting. That's my point.
And I just think so now it will be based on if the player is injured or not.
No, wait, where
like
did you get
Tom
that from?
Brady gets hurt on that play and it's reviewed, do you think it's more likely that that play is upheld?
No, because players can get hurt by not touching a person. Like, what does that injury should not have anything to do with it?
But they do. They do impact the call because if somebody gets hit and they're laying flat out and they're hurt, or if they pop up, I do think that
Well,
influences the call.
The hit on Tua was a clean hit.
No, I understand that.
So injuries should not have an impact on was the hit against the rules? Did you drive the quarterback to the ground and have your entire body land on him? Or was it just a natural follow through where you didn't have a choice, right? Slinging a player to the ground is what they're forced to do because they're not allowed to drive through.
But is that by law? Is that against the rules?
No.
Yes, it is. Austin. That's against Austin. That's what the NFL came back and upheld and said that the call was correct based on the rules. You cannot sling a player, and especially a quarterback, down to the ground.
Then how are you supposed to sack them?
You cannot do that, though.
Well, then if you can't drive your body,
I'm not arguing what else should have happened.
That's stupid.
I get that, but that is the rule. The NFL came back on both instances and said that both calls were correct based on the rule.
Stuff. That's because they're backing up the refs because they don't want to admit how bad of a problem it is.
I don't disagree.
I smell BS on that. Like, how are you it's less contact to grab them with your arms and sling them than it is to put your shoulder through them and drive them.
But by NFL rule, you cannot do that.
The NFL is covering up their BS. They're covering for their refs because they know it's wrong.
And I will say this, if Tua never gets hurt this year, neither of those calls are made.
I don't disagree with that.
It's Tua. Because the media went wild because of the initial Tua against the Bills, how it was handled afterwards, and then the Thursday night.
Because the Dolphins lied because they wanted to win a game. Yes.
I don't know who lied.
Yes.
I don't know who lied.
Yes. They fired the independent.
That was a PR decision.
That's why
you fire the fall guy.
That's what I'm talking. That's what I was making. I was making the point. They fired the PR guy or the fall guy for PR relations because they lied. They designated Tua in game as questionable to return with a head injury, and then they came back and called it a back injury after the fact. They lied.
Do you believe that? I actually think Tua passed the concussion test. I think at halftime he passed the concussion test, and that's why they justified him coming back in. But what they are trying to do is to say, hey, and they've changed the rules since then. If we see something that doesn't look right, you cannot pass the concussion test no matter what.
That's the whole point of them having somebody in the booth that has binoculars that watches the guy get hit.
So that guy should have been fired.
Yeah. The Dolphins messed that entire thing up.
But that's not a Dolphins employee. That's an NFL employee.
The Dolphins designated a head injury, and then they said, no, it's the back. Just kidding. That's what they did.
Yeah, because they asked the player if he was okay, and the player was like, yes.
Vrabel asked Cairo Santos if he can make a 55-yard field goal after he's gone 0 for 3. Of course, the player's going to say, yeah, coach, I got it. Like, it's so dumb. Like,
the player can say, I don't feel well, coach.
Yeah, but players aren't wired like that. Players are always saying, I'm good. I'm good.
Well,
I'm good.
Marcus Mariota. Don't say all, but don't say all. I'm just saying.
Yeah, fair. But players generally are like, yeah, I got this.
Biggest game of the year to go to the playoffs. Are you in? Nah, coach. I'll have the ball cap on the sideline.
That was that's not a heat of the moment type of thing. That's Mariota's agent was involved in that because he knew Mariota had a contract coming up.
Say not all players are like that.
All right. Let's get
so
the shade.
I think we didn't get anywhere, but I think
we got zero places we're gained there. All right, so let's throw some shade if we haven't been already. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com, and my shade's good. I got scared, you-know-what-less last week.
Oh.
And I'll tell that story. But the story I'll tell you right now is how I switched to Farm Bureau Health Plans, and it helped me tremendously. Better coverage, better rates, better service. I got all three by switching my plan. It was a lot better. I saved 20% every single month. I have free teeth cleanings. I've got an allowance for my contacts, in which I buy every year because I've been wearing those bad boys since 7th grade. 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. You can take a quick health assessment. And it could be for you individually. It could be for you and your wife. It could be for you and your wife and kids, your family. They have your perfect plan. It's fbhp.com/ATOZ. Log on there today and switch to Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Download the BetMGM app and use our code ATOZ Sports, and you get a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000. Do that today. I'm excited to be back in Tennessee. I was spent the weekend out of the state, so I couldn't bet, but now back in Tennessee with BetMGM. Looking forward to a big football weekend. Download the app today. Use our code ATOZ Sports. Risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000. Throwing shade to wrap up our Wednesday show. Zach, do you want to start with your shade? You tease it pretty good. You got scared.
I will start with my shade, and you can kind of go through the comments for afterwards. So here's how this story went last week. So last week I was in Dallas, and I usually stay at an Airbnb in Dallas and kind of go out places. I've stayed at hotels before, but this time I was in an Airbnb. And, you know, it's in a good area of Dallas. You know, it's near the airport, whatever. And first night I go to sleep and I wake up about midnight and somebody's in the house. And I'm there by myself and I'm sleeping and I'm under the covers. And like I hear something's rustling around in the other room, like clearly. And so, you know, I'm now in fight or flight mode, kind of like, am I going to be a wuss and just like hide, or am I going to kind of bow up and be like, get the hell out of here?
Who's there?
or am I going to say who's there? You know, I'm not at my house, so I don't have any, I don't know where weapons are or anything. And so, you know, I kind of go through these ups and downs of like, what should I do? And I'm kind of getting scared because I keep hearing these noises, and then all of a sudden, and my door to the bedroom that I'm sleeping in is like cracked. It's not fully shut. All of a sudden, the door creaks open.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
And when that happens, I can't lie, I did kind of go fetal a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching the door. I'm awake. I'm fully awake. I'm watching the door and I'm like, oh shit. What is that? So then I start hearing it in the other room, the room right next door to me. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity. Maybe they didn't see me or didn't hear me. So I get up and I put shorts and a shirt on. So if I have to run, I don't want to run outside. You know, you've seen those Texas Chainsaw Massacres where you know, you just got boxers on. I don't want to be that. So I do have time to do that. And and it's pitch black, right? It's midnight. I open my door and I look down the hallway. Nobody's there. And then I go to the room where I still hear something, and I crack open the door and I see this. I see a mother effing Roomba that has been terrorizing me and I figured out that it starts at 11:45 every night, and I turned that thing off and rescheduled it after this. But, you know, I had no idea. I don't have a Roomba. I've never actually seen a Roomba, to be honest.
Really? They're Roombas are good and bad.
Well, yeah, here's the bad. And so I am relieved to be honest to see the Roomba, because I don't know, but this gave me a pretty big scare.
Yeah. Being
in, you know, another city, another person's house, midnight, hearing noises, all that. So shade on Roombas for scaring the absolute dog you know what out of me.
That is funny. Because you don't have a Roomba, so you don't know, like, Roombas have a obvious noise that sound like Roombas. That's so funny. But yeah, Big Ten Jeff called it early in your story. He was like, it's got to be a Roomba. and oh God, that is funny. is very funny. Roombas are great, but they also mess things up. Like if you have cords on the floor, if you have like a dog water bowl, if you've got anything in the floor, the Roomba will find it and get stuck in it.
Well, that's kind of its job. I feel
Yeah,
like.
it's like, hey, there you are. Get tangled in this cord. Hey, here you are, water bowl, splash water all over the ground, then run over the water, and then run the water across the entire house. So I like my Roomba. His name's Wadsworth. But he does, you have to watch him.
And the hard part, somebody was in the house, right? Like it wasn't like, did I hear something? Oh, it stopped. Like it was something, right?
Yeah.
So that did learn my lesson there. I had never had that experience before.
Yeah, Orlando says shade on haunted houses. They just aren't good anymore. I will not go to a haunted house.
I do love haunted houses. I've aged out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not. Bobby says shade on Tennessee for asking for donations to pay their party fine. You're a $1 billion organization. Shade on Bobby for not recognizing that Tennessee had money for goalposts and fines. They were just asking for extra donations in an opportunistic way to be funny. So I did think that was funny that Tennessee was obviously joking about, hey,
did they take donations?
Yeah, it was just regular donations, just like I get an email every.
But I thought it was positioned for the goalpost.
It was a like a cutesy like GoFundMe joke. Like
that's not a joke. Then
I'm
with Bobby on this. I saw it and I thought the same thing. That's dumb. You don't backdoor donations. That's stupid. That's not cute, in my opinion.
I mean, they were being clever on.
Well, they weren't. That's what I'm saying. They weren't because they got drug on the internet.
Yeah, by people who didn't understand it. Like it was like I saw it immediately.
That's what I'm saying. It's not cute. Yeah, and Bobby is right, and I don't agree with Bobby often, but it's not a joke if you actually take the money.
No, but they ask me for money twice a week.
But they said it was for something.
It was clearly like if it was worded like it was a person that was like, hey,
you can't support this.
Okay,
this is
right. John says my shade's on Ticketmaster for having $50 in ticket fees when I buy a ticket for the Sunday night game in Kansas City. Jason says shame on the university system that requires you to pay for classes that had nothing to do with your degree.
Prereqs.
Okay, that fair. Mark says shade on Bama fans blaming the refs for them losing to the Vols. I agree there, Mark. I think Bama fans being that tone deaf is really funny to me, but also kind of sad that they can't just admit when they lost. Let's see. Tiffany says shade on this frigid weather, got cute dresses that can't be worn without risk of pneumonia.
Amen to Tiffany. I walked outside.
You can't wear your cute dresses either?
I can't wear my cute dresses either.
Yeah.
And this morning I was trying to wear a cute dress. It's too damn cold. So it is. I hate the cold. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And you're right, Tiffany. It's too cold.
Orlando says shade on everyone that said Julio would be better in Tampa than he was in Nashville.
Yeah,
guess what?
He's the same guy.
Yeah. Nick throwing shade at the furniture store that sent a text stating exciting update about my order. And I call and they tell me that it's in their warehouse and will be another 2 weeks for delivery. Not exciting. That's clickbait. So there you go. There. Zach, my shade is on giveaway spam bots. Like we are trying to give away a pair of tickets to the Tennessee-Kentucky game via the Bone and Joint Institute. And look, we do this. Oh, wrong one. We give away tickets to from the Bone and Joint Institute a couple times throughout the year, 3 times this year. We did it for Florida. We're doing it for Kentucky. And now again, for the second time this year, a fake Instagram or Facebook account was bot created to try to spam our followers into thinking they won. So if you get a DM on Instagram from either a phony A to Z account or a phony Bone and Joint Institute account, it's not real. And I can't stand this because it just makes things more difficult. So I hate that it happens, but I don't see a way around it. We want to do giveaways because giveaways are fun for everybody. And so hopefully we don't have it happen again, but that drives me insane because I'm the one that has to deal with it.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're brutal. And like, somebody's doing it, right? So there's an actual person behind it.
You
That
would think.
guy's a loser.
One says, how will I know if it's legit? Click on the profile, and if they have 28,000 followers on Instagram, it's real. If they have 86,000 followers on Facebook, then it's real.
Yeah.
If it has not those numbers, then it's fake. Like, it's pretty easy to tell.
Yeah, we have enough following to know, right? You cannot recreate the following, right? You can recreate the post. You can't recreate the following.
Yeah, Orlando's saying, hey, you won 2 tickets. All we need is your birthday, your social security number, and also your email address and your pet's first name.
Yeah.
So, it's just unfortunately, I've seen somebody in the past get duped and like give credit card information to one of these spams, and I can't stand it. So we will not be asking for any information other than your name and your email for the ticket, so I can email you the tickets themselves. So there you go. Jason says, how do they benefit from doing that? Getting a lot of people's information. That's how.
They ask for credit card information.
Yeah, so don't do it.
Don't give them your
Don't
be stupid enough to give anybody your credit card information.
Oh,
That's some of that is on the person that gives the credit card information. But don't buy surround sound speakers from a guy in a white van too. So, be safe out there, kids.
Yep. All right. That is it for today's Wednesday show. The Titans are back on the practice field later on today. Sam Phelan will have you covered. So just make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Titans coverage from inside the locker room in the practice field. Buck Rising is live tonight, A to Z Sports Primetime. If you're watching on Facebook and on YouTube, like the show before you go. If you're on YouTube, you have to hide the chat on your phone. Then you can like the show. Then you pull the chat back up. But also subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Titans coverage. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow on a Thursday morning. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.